The film begins by showing a beautiful woman named Victoria, who is a working mom. She is seen arguing with a man who is her child's babysitter. Apparently, the man couldn't stand working with Victoria because last week he worked as a full-time while Victoria was only at home on weekends. Victoria works as a lawyer, and her relationship with her husband is over, but they still communicate. One day, Victoria is getting ready to attend a wedding event and leaves her child with her friend named Sophie. Long story short, Victoria arrives at the wedding venue, where their friend Vincent and his partner are singing. Later that evening, Vincent confides in Victoria that he feels out of sync with his partner, despite singing with her not long ago. Shortly after, Samuel, who used to be Victoria's client, arrives. Vincent excuses himself as Samuel's arrival interrupts their conversation. Samuel, who has just graduated and wants to intern at Victoria's office, seems to have a crush on her. Long story short, the next day Victoria visits Vincent, who is being held by the police on charges of violence against his partner while intoxicated. Vincent denies it and asks Victoria to be his lawyer. Despite a tempting offer, Victoria refuses because she values their friendship and doesn't want it to be ruined by taking sides or defending only one person. A few moments later, Victoria visited a fortune teller. The fortune teller said that Victoria would always rely on drugs and wouldn't be able to resist her urge to engage in hormone activities. The next day, Samuel approached her to ask for a job because he was feeling desperate. After thinking it over, Victoria said she could only offer Samuel a job as a babysitter to look after her children. Samuel happily accepted the offer. It turns out Victoria enjoys inviting men over for hormoning, something she couldn't get from her ex-husband. Of course, Victoria also earns extra income from these men, as they pay her too. The following day, Vincent continued to plead with Victoria, and she finally agreed to help him. Victoria then brought Vincent to a reputable lawyer she knew. Later that evening, Victoria once again received a male guest who wanted to engage in hormone activities with her, and they did so with great enthusiasm. In short, the next day, Victoria's ex-husband David was seen conducting a seminar discussing stories from his personal blog, where he recounted the life of his ex-wife Victoria, who enjoyed receiving calls from men in need of some hormoning. Coincidentally, Victoria was there, and she immediately confronted and scolded David because his story could ruin her career and affect their children. Moreover, David didn't cover their identities. However, David defended himself and only cared about his own career, believing his story would sell on his blog. The story is authentic and truly experienced by the author. Therefore, Victoria is determined to sue her husband for defamation. However, David is not at all afraid of Victoria's threats. Before filing a lawsuit against her ex-husband, Victoria once again invited men to her home, this time inviting a younger man to engage in hormone activities with her. Then, a few days later, Victoria received a letter from the court because she was acquainted with a member of the judiciary who was reported by her ex-husband because David was unhappy that Victoria had filed a defamation suit against him first. The next day, as a responsible citizen, Victoria attended the trial regarding her scandal. Shortly thereafter, the judge decided to suspend Victoria for 6 months for embarrassing the legal institution in her country. As a result, Victoria's health deteriorated further. Fortunately, Samuel was willing to care for and support Victoria until she fully recovered. In short, a few days later, Victoria was allowed to leave the hospital. Now, she can only spend time with her children while undergoing traditional treatment for her illness. One night, Victoria contacted Samuel and asked him to come to her apartment right away. When Samuel arrived, they chatted about their respective busyness, and after chatting for a while, they were carried away by the heat of the moment. They engaged in hormone activities. In short, 6 months passed, and that night Victoria received a call from her ex-husband. He said that the story of Victoria's life on his blog had become very popular, attracting new readers and even earning his blog an award. However, this only further embarrassed Victoria as her life story was now widely spread because of David. The next day, Vincent visited her apartment. She said she was willing to accept Vincent's offer to take over his legal representation. Without much ado, she immediately analyzed the case. Victoria was very confident that Vincent was truly innocent, to the point that Vincent's pet was brought in as a witness to reenact the incident. At the same time, Victoria attended the trial regarding her case with her ex-husband, who had damaged her reputation as a lawyer. After the trial, Samuel and Victoria met again. Here, Samuel confessed his deep love for Victoria. Even in sickness, he still cared for her. And Samuel also said that despite Victoria being with other men almost every day, he still loved her wholeheartedly. Despite all the attention he had given, Samuel hoped Victoria would accept the situation and stop being with other men. However, Samuel's presence seemed ordinary to Victoria. Exhausted by his unreciprocated feelings, Samuel finally bid farewell to his life, despite Victoria pleading for him to stay. It turned out Samuel no longer cared about that, and that night Victoria was truly distressed. She couldn't stop taking her medication, eventually needing to be taken to the hospital. In short, the trial began promptly, but Victoria's worsening condition led her to request permission not to attend. Samuel, seeing Victoria's condition, eventually came to give her encouragement and help restore her reputation as a lawyer. With Samuel's arrival, Victoria regained her spirits and finally attended the trial. Victoria then provided a very reasonable explanation, and ultimately she won the case. On the way home, Victoria felt extremely lonely and needed Samuel's presence right away. Eventually, she contacted Samuel. Unfortunately, Samuel did not answer Victoria's call. Because of this, Victoria thought she was truly guilty. Finally, after some time, Samuel passed by her, and Victoria quickly apologized for her insensitivity towards Samuel, and thanked him for helping take care of her children. Victoria expressed her desire to stay with Samuel, and told him that she loved him too. And the film ends.